trading barbs with a close Trump ally. Erica Brown is at the White House with more.
Mr. President, will you cancel Elon's contracts?
President Trump told CBS News' Robert Costa Friday that he's focused on the domestic and foreign policy matters of his presidency, not on Elon Musk in the wake of their very public falling out. Trump and Musk, who just a week ago praised one another at the White House, traded insults and threats on social media Thursday after Musk called President Trump's signature budget package a, quote, big ugly bill, arguing it would add trillions to the deficit. The White House denies that.
With respect to what Mr. Musk has been saying about the big, beautiful bill and overspending and things like that, I think that that dog won't hunt when you do the math properly.
A senior administration official says President Trump is considering selling the Tesla he bought in March as a show of confidence in Musk.
Do not doubt and do not second guess and don't ever challenge the President of the United States, Donald Trump.
House Speaker Mike Johnson said he wants to see the two men resolve their differences.
Look, I hope they reconcile. I believe in redemption. That's part of my worldview, and I think it's good for the party and the country.
While some in the Republican Party are hoping President Trump and Elon Musk patch up their relationship, others appear to be fanning the flames. On Friday, Trump ally Steve Bannon called on the White House to investigate Musk over his alleged drug use and how he ran Trump's Department of Government Efficiency. Bannon also questioned whether Musk's path to becoming an American citizen was done correctly. Musk responded on social media Friday, calling Bannon, who served 4 months in prison, a criminal. Erica Brown, CBS News, the White House.
Here at home, 2 Honolulu police officers are recovering from injuries after they were assaulted by a suspect armed with a knife in the Makiki area last night. The officers were responding to a report of a man acting erratically near the intersection of Pi'ikoi and King Streets at around 6 p.m. Police say the 25-year-old man assaulted the officers. They were both taken to the hospital for treatment. We reached out to HPD for an update on their condition, and the suspect was arrested at the scene. The Schofield soldier who confessed to killing his pregnant wife and dismembering her body is sentenced to 23 years behind bars. Mahealani Richardson has a reaction from the victim's family.
It's been almost a year since Dwayne Johnson killed his wife, Misha Johnson, and faked her disappearance. Family members were completely distraught during and after the sentencing. And a warning, the details of this case are graphic.
Mariana Tapiz spent her 28th birthday in court as she waited to see how long Dwayne Johnson would be locked up for killing her sister, his wife, 19-year-old Misha Johnson.
I can't speak for my family, but in terms of myself, I understand that with the body missing, this case was already hard.
29-year-old Johnson was sentenced to the maximum 23 years in prison for killing Misha, who was pregnant with their child. During a court-martial hearing this week, Johnson admitted to striking Misha in the head with a machete in their Schofield home, chopping up her body with a chainsaw and tossing her remains with his unborn child into a trash bin. An investigator revealed this week Johnson pursued other women and began a serious relationship with one shortly after Misha's death.
It was like the puzzle pieces, right? The puzzle pieces all kind of aligned when we were in court, and everything was clicking for me. He had been on a dating app and reached out to 18 women while my sister's blood was still wet under their floors. That was disgusting.
On the witness stand, Johnson gave an emotional apology to Misha's loved ones, his family, and his unit members who supported him and his late wife after a miscarriage. Johnson, a junior-ranking cavalry scout, accepted a plea agreement for manslaughter in exchange for sharing information with investigators that he had previously kept secret. A friend of Misha's family, who's also a military wife, argued Johnson deserved harsher penalties.
I think it should have been a lot longer, definitely a lot longer, because he still has some of his life to live, and who knows, maybe offend again.
Misha was just 15 minutes away from us, but she was still taken. My hope is that Misha's story, Misha's case, brings resources to women that are away from their families to give them a safe place.
Family members were too distraught to speak after the hearing, but a family spokesperson thanked the community.
Especially with the anniversary date quickly approaching. So they want to extend their biggest mahalo.
Johnson is set to serve his prison sentence at a disciplinary barracks in Fort Leavenworth, Kansas.
Now, Johnson also faced child pornography charges, which were dropped as part of the plea deal. Mahia Lenny Richardson, Hawaii News Now.
Thank you, Mahia. Meanwhile, domestic violence and legal experts are questioning why Army prosecutors were willing to give Johnson such a favorable plea deal. Investigators say they found the victim's blood under the flooring in the home, evidence of a cover-up, and multiple conversations with other women on Johnson's phone, all before they made their deal of manslaughter and a maximum 23-year sentence. Experts say that circumstantial evidence could show the suspect is guilty of murder.
The other things on the phone, for example, the allegation that he was trying to have another woman move here shortly after his wife disappeared, and the allegation that there were cover-up text messages on his phone, those are circumstantial evidence to show that he's guilty of murder.
Over time, we have always wanted the military to take the problem of domestic violence more seriously than we thought they were, depending on the branch, depending on the commanding officer, depending on the individual soldier or Marine, depending on the survivor. Those were all variables that seemed to impact or influence the response.
We reached out to the Army for a response, but the information officer in Virginia said it was too late at the time to get information. The attempted murder trial for Maui Dr. Gerhard Koenig has been delayed at the request of both the prosecutor and the defense attorney. The anesthesiologist is accused of trying to kill his wife by pushing her off a poly cliff and inject her with a syringe during a hike on Oahu back in March. The criminal trial is now scheduled to begin the first week of September. Doomsday mom Lori Vallow Daybell was escorted out of an Arizona courtroom today after a heated argument with the judge during her third trial. Now, it all started when her team was late. Then, during opening statements, she brought up self-character evidence about herself, claiming she's loving and peaceful.
Stop. We'll have a very short hearing, okay? If you're going to introduce how you have great character and good character, we're going to have a short hearing on what evidence that they can bring in to rebut that character, which could include being convicted of 4 murders. So
and would you
talk
like
to your advisory council during the break? And
you don't need to yell at me either.
I'm at you, okay?
Yeah, you are, and you do not need to talk to me that way. I'm very courteous. I'm very courteous to you.
No, you have been nothing near courteous to me during the course of these proceedings.
Vallow Daybell was removed from the courtroom by a detention deputy, and after the recess, she was brought back in and she apologized to the judge. Vallow Daybell is on trial for the alleged 2019 attempted murder of her ex-nephew-in-law. She was already convicted of killing her previous husband, Charles Vallow, and she's serving 3 life sentences in Idaho for the murders of her children and her husband's previous wife. Well, the city is getting smarter in its fight to stop illegal game rooms. The mayor says he plans to sign 3 bills that were passed on Wednesday by the Honolulu City Council. Bill 11 will introduce a permit system to track electronic gambling devices. Bill 12 allows city building officials to deny, suspend, or revoke permits if a property is cited for gambling violations. And Bill 13 allows landlords to request HPD officers to assist with property inspections and evictions. And the mayor also plans to sign off on a measure to help more businesses impacted by rail construction in Kalihi. Bill 31 provides $10,000 yearly in grants to merchants with annual revenue up to $1 million. Now, before this, the cap was $750,000 in annual revenue. The legislation also removes a 15-employee limit, but requires that businesses have been opened at least 1 year prior to any rail construction. New at noon on the Big Island, after a 30-day trial period, the mayor says Ali'i Drive in Kailua Kona will revert back to its 2-way traffic pattern. The pilot project, which tested a 1-way traffic pattern between Kailua Pier and Hualalai Road to create 46 new parking stalls, was supposed to be for 90 days. But Mayor Kimo Alameda says a recent poll with more than 2,700 responses made it clear that people preferred the original 2-way flow. He said the county is looking into new parking lease opportunities and partnerships with hotels, as well as reduced private parking fees.
You made it to the weekend. Beautiful outside right now. We've got temperatures around 85 degrees and expanding this out throughout the rest of this evening. We're going to be seeing green conditions. That just means fair weather out there. A lot of sunshine this afternoon and a better chance for some showers as we're going into the overnight. The other thing that we're tracking, of course, is this southwest swell that's been moving in. It's going to be peaking sometime today and sticking around throughout the weekend. This is the forecast for Friday afternoon. Still choppy out on east-facing shores, 4 to 6 in town. 3 to 5 on west-facing shores. You can see in our swell forecast going forward. This is through Saturday and Sunday. Again, the surf is going to hold on through Saturday and Sunday and start to be on the decline going into next week. I'll give you a look at the Eastern Pacific and how we're tracking the tropics coming up.
Thank you, Drew. A scramble at sea after a ferry boat carrying tourists capsized near Bali, Indonesia, with almost 100 people on board. Michael George has more on the race to escape.
Desperation on a sinking ferry as panicked passengers race to escape. The boat, packed with 89 passengers, had set sail off the coast of Bali from a popular beach spot when heavy waves slammed the ship, forcing it to take on water. As passengers rushed to find an exit, a nearby boat came to the rescue. Video footage captured passengers clinging to the ferry as it tipped over, while others jumped into the ocean.
Break the window, break the window.
Lauren Daig was on board. She was able to kick out a window and jump onto another nearby boat.
And folded so quickly, and there were so many people that couldn't swim, and everyone just turned on each other essentially, and it was just pure panic mode.
The 24-year-old Pennsylvania native was celebrating her birthday on a solo trip across Indonesia. She said she was left with bruises and stitches, but grateful to be alive. All passengers were accounted for, and no deaths or injuries were reported. Michael George, CBS News.
Ahead on This Is Now, the Maryland man who was wrongly deported to El Salvador is coming back to the U.S. to face federal criminal charges. Plus, June is National Pride Month, but this year, some corporate sponsors are pulling back their support. We'll tell you why in 2 minutes. Veterans gathered in Normandy today to commemorate the 81 years since the D-Day landings when U.S. troops and Allied forces invaded Nazi-occupied France back in 1944. 73,000 were killed in the battle at Normandy. U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth spoke at the ceremony. Tens of thousands of people attended the commemoration, which included parades, flyovers, and historical reenactments. The number of surviving veterans gets smaller every year, with all of them in their 90s or older. A Maryland man mistakenly deported to El Salvador is coming back to the U.S. to face federal criminal charges. The U.S. Department of Justice today announced the indictment of Kilmar Albrejo Garcia for smuggling undocumented migrants into the U.S. and conspiracy. Now, Attorney General Pam Bondi says the scheme spanned nearly a decade with thousands of people trafficked across the border.
He was a smuggler of humans and children and women. He made over 100 trips, the grand jury found, smuggling people throughout our country. MS-13 members, violent gang terrorist organization members throughout our country.
Albrejo Garcia's deportation to El Salvador in March became a flashpoint in the debate over President Trump's crackdown on illegal immigration after the administration acknowledged it made an administrative error. Courts ordered the White House to facilitate his return. A judge had previously granted Albrejo Garcia protection from deportation, and his lawyers argued he'd never been charged with or convicted of any crime. Now authorities are alleging smuggling was his full-time job. Well, big brands are pulling back on Pride events this year. For years, June was increasingly a rainbow-filled month for many big corporations, but this year, some retailers and brands are going quiet. Lee Waldman is in New York with a look at the changes.
There's a few factors at play here. Many businesses are scaling back on their advertising spending over economic uncertainty regarding tariffs, but some cited pressure from the Trump administration as the primary reason for changing their Pride Month approach.
Pride is more than just a weekend. Pride is more than just a month. Pride is all year round.
For 45 years, St. Louis has celebrated Pride with a free festival. This year, that's changing. Pride Fest goers will have to pay a $10 entry fee because the organization has lost more than $150,000 in corporate sponsorships, including St. Louis headquartered Anheuser-Busch, which pulled its support after a 30-year partnership.
It was simply a quote on a phone call that was, we no longer see the value in the relationship, end quote. And that was all we got.
We've reached out to Anheuser-Busch for comment, but haven't heard back. It's not the only brand scaling back. According to a survey of more than 200 corporate executives by Gravity Research, 39% plan to do the same this year. New York City Pride is feeling the impact as well.
We are about 25% down from our fundraising goal, which equals about $750,000.
The subdued corporate support marks a shift in recent years. Businesses are scrapping some of their programs to advance diversity in the workplace under pressure from the Trump administration. With this shift, some Pride events are reincorporating Pride's original purpose: protest.
To us, protest can mean so many things. Protest is protest. Being queer joy is protest. Being visible is protest.
We will not go backwards. We will not tolerate these actions from this administration and from this state.
Both New York City Pride and Pride St. Louis are relying on community support this year to make up for the decreased corporate support. In New York, I'm Lee Waldman.
And stick around. Coming up after the break, we'll walk you through our first alert forecast. Light trades in the south swell. The details coming up.
First Alert Weather with Drew Davis.
Happy Friday, everybody. Happy Aloha Friday. You made it to the weekend. We've got light trades out there and a south swell. We already took a look at that south swell, but let's talk about what we're seeing out there in the tropics. Of course, hurricane season started just a few days ago. June 1st officially marks the first day of hurricane season. There's two areas that have a high % chance for development, about an 80% chance of development and a 70% chance of development over the next 7 days, and about a 60% chance of development going forward over the next 48 hours. You can see both of these systems forming right here just to the southwest of Mexico. They'll likely fall apart in the cooler waters of the eastern Pacific. Some of the models actually have them getting relatively close to each other. So we could have two systems, we could have one, and there's still a lot of energy out to the east. So we're going to continue to be watching the Eastern Pacific very closely. A good reminder, our hurricane special aired a few days ago, but we're still talking tropics around the entirety of hurricane season. Chief Meteorologist Jennifer Robbins and I will be hosting a live stream on YouTube and Facebook. That's going to be Monday at 7 p.m. Please join us. You'll be able to ask us questions about the upcoming season. Our island by island forecast for Saturday. Kauai, we've got scattered showers and partly sunny conditions, moving down to Oahu, 87 in town, 81 in Kaneohe, 83 in Kahuku. A little bit of cloud cover tomorrow, but mostly sunny still. Maui County, mostly sunny and breezy out there. Northeasterlies between 5 to 15 miles per hour, 86 in Kihei, 87 in Kahului. Moving over to Kona, around 84 in Vaugi over the southwestern portions of Hawaii Island, 85 in Waikoloa. Moving over to Hilo, around 84, mostly sunny out there. A few showers possible, but they'll be passing and short-lived in nature. Mostly sunny and breezy. And here's just a quick look at our first alert radar and satellite. We're not seeing too much out there right now. Earlier, or at least yesterday, we saw some mid to upper level clouds. It was a little cloudy at times, but much more sunshine outside today. Zooming in closer to Oahu, if anything, a few sprinkles along the Ko'olau, but really not much out there, and also some clouds over the leeward portions in the Waianae Mountain Range. You can also see a little bit of cloud cover over Maui and also some cloud cover over portions of Hawaii Island. But overall, we're not seeing too much rainfall out there. Our winds outside, overall easterly flow. They're a little bit weaker than what we were seeing earlier this week, where we were seeing wind gusts closer to 25 to 30 miles per hour. And again, south-southwest swell, 4 to 6 feet on south-facing shores. East-facing shores still pretty choppy out there because of the breezy trades, and small on north-facing shores. Here's our 7-day forecast. Really nice weather expected this weekend. A little bit warm at times. High temperatures around 87, 88 degrees, and slightly weaker winds. Stick around. We'll be right back after this short break.
let's do some good news. The 78th Annual Tony Awards are just a few days away.
The ceremony will feature a ton of firsts, special performances hosted by the Wicked Witch of Wicked, who's a Tony winner herself. Jared Hill has more.
Radio City Music Hall is preparing to raise the curtain on Broadway's biggest night.
I think it lets people who don't get to come to Broadway see what's on stage.
Sunday, Cynthia Erivo will host the 78th Tony Awards, leading the pack with 10 nods each, a trio of unique new musicals. The Robot Romance Maybe Happy Ending, Death Becomes Her, an adaptation of the 90s dark comedy, and Buena Vista Social Club, a celebration of Cuban music.
We are absolutely on fire in a wonderful way.
Alex Bursch, CEO and Senior Vice President of Broadway program maker Plea, says this has been one of the busiest Broadway seasons in a decade.
I think the main storylines throughout the evening are really going to be how are the shows going to differentiate themselves?
Performances are planned for all the Best Musical and Best Musical Revival contenders, setting the stage for 6-time Tony winner Audra McDonald and Pussycat Doll turned Broadway powerhouse Nicole Scherzinger to show off why they are up for Best Actress in a Musical. This year's Tonys will feature a special reunion. The original cast of Hamilton, the most nominated show in Tony's history, will be back on stage for a performance celebrating the show's 10th anniversary.
We have Hamilton in part to thank for really changing the public's perception.
Oh, Mary took it to the next level. The absurdist take on former First Lady Mary Todd Lincoln meets George Clooney's Good Night and Good Luck in the Best Play category. Other stars of the big screen are also looking for a stage win, as Erivo looks to make some magic of her own.
Because I want everything to tickle people's taste buds. Yeah.
A final bow for the highest grossing season in Broadway history. Jared Hill, CBS News, New York.
Thank you for watching. This is Now. More news first at 4 right here on KCHN.